Hey, what's ready? Welcome back to News Dose, and next generation just got a whole lot more exciting. Now, I've said it before, but I think one of the most exciting things that's currently happening within the game industry is the evolution of gaming handhelds. Now, obviously, the Nintendo Switch was massively successful with more than 150 million consoles sold. But over the past few years, we've also seen multiple PC gaming companies come in with their own handheld option that can play some of these modern AAA games. And this is only just the beginning. I mean, you have to remember that this technology is still only in its infancy stage. The hardware absolutely will make huge strides in the coming years, and so too will the operating systems. Xbox is currently working with ROG, and they're optimizing Windows to be more like Xbox. So kudos to Xbox for making a more gamer-centric OS to fit these Windows gaming handhelds. And we also know that Xbox has more plans for future handhelds. But now we're also hearing about a new PlayStation portable, aka the PSP3. And this thing sounds absolutely fantastic. So stick around, and we're going to talk about how Sony could potentially shake up that market even more. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Just a huge shout out to you all. I know I say it every single video, but I truly do mean it. I really, really do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with Nintendo and just their bizarre stance for game key cards. Really, I just don't understand what they were expecting with game key cards. I mean, out of all of the big three, Nintendo fans, more so than on other platforms, prefers their physical games. This has been known for a very long time, especially in places like Japan, and with that information, it should come as no surprise that their game key cards haven't exactly been selling all that well. We've already heard that multiple developers are unsatisfied with their early results on the Switch 2, but there is one studio that's very happy, and that's CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk 2077 was one of the only true physical releases from a third-party company at launch. And, well, I mean, lo and behold, it sold very well. It's been one of the best-selling Switch 2 games up to this point, and I don't think that that's a simple coincidence. I mean, it's a good game, yes, but there are a lot of fans that are more willing to buy it because it has a true physical copy. In fact, we just got more information that 75% of its copies sold in June were actually physical units. Again, I think that just kind of speaks to Nintendo fans and what they prefer. They like their physical copies. This really isn't new information, but at the same time, it might as well be because Nintendo, for whatever reason, seemingly didn't prepare with that in mind, which is all the more jarring to me, because they had 8 years to get the Switch 2 launch correct. And somehow, they still managed to botch their third-party support, which has always been a sore spot for Nintendo. Their first-party games, they're amazing. But the question for Nintendo is always, will third-party companies show up to their hardware? And I think that they will this generation, just given its capability, but Nintendo has definitely put them in a weird position with only 2 launch options as of this point. An overly expensive 64GB cartridge that eats into their profits, or a cheap game key card that consumers expectedly don't like. Now, one of this year's best games, though, Expedition 33, got some big news from its creative director. This was revealed via an interview with Mr. Matty Plays. Big shout out to him. He, in my opinion, is one of the best YouTubers out there. But nonetheless, the creative director revealed that Expedition 33 is quote-unquote not the end of the series. He pointedly said that Clair is the franchise name, and that Expedition 33 is only one of the stories that they want to tell in the franchise. Now, does that mean that there will be a direct sequel? Well, not necessarily, but it could go in the same direction as other long-standing JRPGs like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest as 2 such examples. Clair Obscur could remain in the same universe, and it could carry over certain elements to the next game and into the next story, all while supporting a completely new cast of characters and a unique situation for them to differentiate it from past titles. Regardless of how they handle a sequel, though, I'm sure a lot of fans will immediately be excited, just given how good their debut game is. It's going to be very interesting to see how many Game of the Year awards it gets. this year. I mean, it's got some major competition with games like Death Stranding 2 and Donkey Kong Bonanza, but I'm fairly certain that it's going to win some awards on multiple websites. Okay, now let's go talk about this new PlayStation handheld, the Vita 2 or the PSP 3 or whatever you want to call it. But on paper, Sony is seemingly doing some very exciting stuff for their not-so-secret handheld. According to Moore's Law is Dead, which has been a fairly accurate leaker for Sony hardware in the past, claims to have seen multiple documents regarding their new handheld. Now, this is not the first time that we've heard about a new PlayStation Portable, but this, however, is the first time that we've gotten an in-depth leak about its specs and a feature that fans are already incredibly excited about. Now, I'll circle back to that feature here in just a moment, but first let's go ahead and talk about its leaks, or what I'm going to do here instead is to compare it to what we already have on the market. And I'm going to do that because a lot of people are going to look at these leaks and, it's not going to mean much to them. But right now, at least based on the leaked documents that he saw, it will outperform the Xbox ROG Ally X, which is currently one of the most powerful handheld options that we have. Now, keep in mind that ROG could potentially launch another option by the time Sony puts their own iteration out, so this isn't to say that the PSP 3 will be the most powerful option the year it eventually releases in. The PSP 3 isn't expected until 2027 or 2028 to coincide with the PlayStation 6, and just given how fast handheld technology is evolving, I mean, yeah, there's a very good chance that we'll have a Steam Deck 2, an ROG Ally 2, another Xbox option, and of course there's also companies like Lenovo as well. So it's hard to say where the handheld market will be by the time Sony releases their own iteration. So with that in mind, don't get too caught up on it being the most powerful handheld option out there. It probably won't be. But my point in comparing it to the Xbox ROG Ally X is to say that the PSP 3 will be a very capable handheld that could be competitive in this space when it eventually releases. Here's the part that a lot of people are getting excited about, though. Allegedly, it will have a dock that will boost its power similar to how the Nintendo Switch works. So in other words, in handheld mode, it might be better for PlayStation 4 games. But in docked mode, it will be more capable of playing PlayStation 5 games natively, which that's a big inclusion because just last year, it was reported that they were targeting the PlayStation 4 library. So this changes things in a pretty massive way, which already makes it a much more exciting device than what we previously heard. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised at all if some fans are even more excited about this than the PlayStation 6 itself. I mean, if you do prefer a handheld experience, and because it might have a dock as well to give it that extra boost, I mean, you're going to kind of get that Switch-like experience packaged into a PlayStation device. And that's a really cool option. Though at the same time, I mean, you have to understand that the PlayStation 6 will still be a much more powerful console as should be expected. This is not going to replace the PlayStation 6. So, that's worth keeping in mind. But, I mean, if you're in the market for a handheld console, then Sony could end up shaking up the PC gaming handheld market when they eventually drop the PSP 3. I mean, PlayStation is a very popular brand with a very competitive library of games. So if anything else, if you already have a big digital PlayStation library, then Sony's handheld might be the go-to option for that reason alone. So if Sony can execute properly with an attractive price, then this very well could be worth paying attention to. Now, one more thing before we go, because the hype for the Switch 2 has been absolutely legitimate. It's not only the fastest selling console of all time, but it's also now the best selling console in the United States for 2025, despite it only being available for 2 months of the year. This was revealed by Circana's Matt Piscatella. He claimed that both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series hardware has declined this year, which, I mean, I don't think is overly surprising given that, they keep raising the prices and it's also their 5th year on the market. I mean, prices are kind of going the wrong way this generation. That's going to impact these consoles. It's just strange. But meanwhile, Nintendo, they released the most anticipated console ever made, and they've already released 2 significant games in Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza to continue that hype. So, I mean, they've really gotten off to a fast start. But for me, what I'm actually more interested to see is how it compares to the Switch 1 after a few years and some of that initial hype falls off. I mean, one of the big things that made the Switch 1 so successful was how well it sustained its hardware numbers year in and year out, and especially during that lockdown period when the Switch 1 was just flying off shelves. So I am curious to see if the Switch 2 can sustain a similar amount of success over the generation. But hey, I mean, so far they are doing an incredible job, to say the least, and we haven't even seen its first holiday yet. I mean, it's going to push a lot of units over the next few months, and when all said and done, Nintendo very well might hold another record by the end of the year. Anyways, though, that's going to be for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.